Uranus going into Gemini is not just a timeline shift, it's a timeline split. Because Gemini is the twins, okay? Gemini is duality. So I know that we have all already noticed that we are not all on the same page, right? We are not all looking at the world through the same lens. So this is like where some of us are on one timeline and others of us are on a different timeline. And under Uranus and Gemini, this is going to become more pronounced. We're not going to be able to overlook it anymore. It's going to become part of the shift that is going to happen over this transit. So before we really dive into Uranus, we have to talk about Pluto, because Pluto is in Aquarius. And as long as Pluto is in Aquarius, it is answering to Uranus. So what is Pluto in Aquarius? Well, if you've been following me, you know that I talk about it as power to the people. Pluto is the most powerful planet and it transforms, right? So Pluto empowers and transforms whatever sign that it's in. And what is Aquarius? Aquarius is the people. Aquarius is also about intellectual, holding the thought, what we find weird, and communities, right? So over the next 20 years, Pluto is going to transform and empower all of those things. Pluto is going to empower and transform the people. Pluto is going to empower and transform what we consider intelligence, AI. Pluto is going to empower and transform what we consider weird. So what does that mean, right? So things that we consider weird are going to become mainstream. And some key things that stick out to me is like homeschoolers, right? People think like homeschoolers are weird. Well, guess what? Under this transit, they're not going to be considered weird anymore. There's going to be AI tutors that make it easier to homeschool. And communities are going to come together so people don't have to worry about homeschooling your kid in isolation. You'll have communities to homeschool your kids in so that they will have friends and they will have a community. It's also going to take things that we consider normal and then we're going to consider them to be weird, right? So right now we think it's normal to take vaccines, take injections, and we don't know what's in them. And we don't even know the people that are injecting us. The people that are injecting us, I feel, don't even know what's in them, right? So we're going to take another look at this and be like, that's kind of weird that we were letting people inject things into our bodies and we weren't even like asking any questions, right? We were just going along with it because that's what we're supposed to do. And you know what it also reminds me of? If you've ever read the book The Giver, they had these daily injections they had to take every morning. Like they put their hand on a thing as they walked out their door and got injected with something every day. And it was to keep their emotions baseline and it was like to control them, right? Another thing is like public schools. We think it's normal to send your kids off to a government education facility for 6 hours a day for strangers to raise our kids. And we're going to take another look at that and realize like maybe that is not normal. And maybe we can come up with our own communities and our new ways of doing things that will be the new normal. So Aquarius is an air sign and so is Gemini. They are both thinkers, but they don't think in the same way. Gemini is a quick thinker, a problem solver. Aquarius is the fixed sign, so it holds the thought and it's more future oriented, where Gemini is like thinks fast on its feet, but it's more like in the moment. So when Pluto is in Aquarius and Uranus is in Gemini, we're really moving into an era about intelligence, technology, innovation, and future thinking. But before we get into where Uranus is going, we need to do a little review of where Uranus has been. And that's been in Taurus since 2018. And when I say 2018, I'm sure a lot of you are like, oh, pre-COVID, right? Because listen, anybody that's lived through COVID, there was like a pre-COVID, before COVID happened, and after COVID, like two different worlds, right? So when Pluto first moved into Aquarius, Uranus was still in Taurus. So the story of the people taking their power back starts with Uranus in Taurus. And what Uranus did was shake up Taurian things. And any astrologer would have known that the transit of Uranus and Taurus was going to shake up Taurian things. It was going to shake up the food supply. It was going to shake up the housing market. It was going to shake up our creature comforts. It was going to shake up our physically feeling safe and secure, our standards of living. But with Uranus, Uranus always throws a curveball. With Uranus, you never know how it's going to do it. So you know it's going to shake up Taurian things, right? But you don't know how it's going to do it because I don't think any of us saw COVID coming. So housing, food, money, physical safety, survival, comfort, stability, okay? So by the end of Uranus and Taurus, a lot of us realize something, that we cannot depend on the systems to maintain our stability and our standards of living and our creature comforts, because Uranus doesn't disrupt just to disrupt. Uranus shakes things up to show us things, okay? And it showed us that if we want to maintain our creature comforts, if we want to maintain our standard of living, we cannot depend on these control structures to come through for us. We have to create the systems for ourselves. Uranus and Taurus stripped everything back down to the basics. It forced us to ask ourselves what matters. Is it the perfectly manicured lawn? Or is it the garden that can actually feed people? Is it the perfectly put together house that looks prestigious and looks how we think it should look? Or is it the house that's made out of solid materials and maybe a metal roof that will last us a long time to come? Now that we've figured out what really matters, and now that we figured out that we cannot depend on the control systems to take care of these things for us, now what? Okay, so now Uranus moves into Gemini, and Gemini is the mind. So now Gemini is asking, okay, so now what is the plan? Uranus and Gemini is the timeline split, not just the shift, the split. So Gemini rules duality. It's two paths, two sides, two truths that exist at the same time. So there's absolutely a technology theme here because Gemini rules technology and Aquarius rules technology. There's no getting around that, but there's also an element of getting back to nature, getting back to the basics, getting back to what matters. So both are true, both are coexisting, and that's the point. Because we are going back to basics and back to nature while simultaneously taking off with technology and AI. They're both going to exist at the same time. And I think the technology is actually going to help us create the systems that help us get back to nature. They're going to work together. Some people are going to lead harder into the technological side, and some people are going to lean harder into the nature or back to the basic side. But the sweet spot really is somewhere in the middle where you're using them both together. Oh, real quick. So I know that the full moon in Scorpio is this week also, but I'm not even going to talk about that in this report because Uranus in Gemini, I feel deserves like the full stage alone. And so I'm doing my Get on My Wavelength podcast coming up soon with Corin, and we're going to talk about the full moon in Scorpio. So I'm not ignoring the full moon. It's just for this report. I'm really focusing in on Uranus and Gemini. Okay, so prediction number 1, alliances shift. So Uranus shakes things up. What does Gemini rule? Your friends, okay? Alliances. So Gemini rules friends, alliances, neighbors, communities, and connections. So Uranus is shaking those things up. Yes, on a global scale, but all the way on every level back to like, who's your best friend? Okay. So one of my biggest predictions here is that alliances shift on the global scale, but also in our lives. Friend groups change, communities evolve, neighborhoods reshuffle. We'll touch back on that one in another prediction. People turn on each other in ways that are shocking. and people part ways. And we can tie this also to Pluto and Aquarius, because Aquarius rules community and Pluto transforms, okay? So communities are going to transform, neighborhoods are going to reshuffle, alliances are going to shift. And my big specific prediction when it comes to this is the US-Israeli alliance, okay? I predict that by the time the end of the Uranus and Gemini transit, that the US and Israel will not be alliances anymore. And I think it's going to be the US that turns on Israel. Let me see, what's the number here? Because tell me again why we are sending Israel 3.8 billion with a B, billion dollars every year, not like a one-time thing, every year. Why are we doing that? Prediction number 2, coming together with like-minded people. So while some friendships and community dynamics and stuff like dissolve, we're gonna then come back together with the right ones, with the like-minded people. So I said there's like a collective split, a timeline split. And so we're gonna go find the people that split on the same side as us. There's gonna be a divide. And we're gonna wanna come together with the people that are on our wavelength, basically. Okay, so at the same time, new alliances form just as fast. People find their people. Like-minded people start building with each other instead of waiting for broken systems to come through. So we will not be all seeing things through the same lens. So people will gravitate to those that see things the same way that they do. Some connections cannot go where you're going. Some new ones are going to arrive fast. Gemini is fast. Don't underestimate the power in numbers. Don't underestimate the power of rolling deep, okay? People are going to listen to you, and you're going to have more pull when you come with people. Prediction number 3, communication innovations, okay? So in the past, Uranus and Gemini transit, we got the telegraph. And so my prediction is that we're going to get the holograph. So what I'm seeing in my mind is like from our phones, instead of FaceTime, it's going to be like a hologram shows up in front of you, so it can almost feel like the person is actually right in front of you. Almost kind of like a VR, except you're not going to need like the VR headset. I feel like it's going to be something that like a phone app where a holograph of the person that you're talking to is standing right in front of you. That's what I see, okay? Prediction number 4. AI changes everything. So Gemini rules technology, Aquarius rules technology, Pluto transforms, Uranus innovates. Like there's no getting around this, okay? So AI is going to rapidly change the mental landscape. There are going to be AI tutors making homeschool more accessible, because this transit is going to make us question a lot of things. Like, why are we sending our kids to government education facilities all day for strangers to raise them? That's weird, okay? That's weird. That's something that's weird that we consider mainstream and normal, and we're gonna start realizing that that's fucking weird, okay? We should have more control over how our kids are raised, and we should be building our own communities to come together and do that. So people are going to be able to build websites, apps, and businesses using AI that would have been out of their reach before. This will help level the playing field, but only for people that have adapted and learned how to utilize AI as a tool. So AI as a tool is not something to be feared, okay? And this is a way to get our freedom, right? So if Pluto in Aquarius is power to the people, and Pluto and Uranus are all pointing to technology, part of the way that the people get their power back and get their freedom back is using technology, okay? Using technology to start your own business so that you can work from home. And then you have more freedom in so many aspects of your life. using technology to create communities so that you do have the numbers, so that you can roll deep, so that what you say does carry weight, okay? It just opens so many more possibilities for us. So, and Pluto in Aquarius is already asking the deeper question underneath all of this. What does it mean to be human in the age of AI? And that question only gets louder from here because AI is going to be much more prominent in our everyday lives. So things that we once considered weird will become mainstream, and things that we considered mainstream, we're going to realize were actually really weird. And yeah, it's about working together, a redefinition of what is normal. This transit is not just about technology doing everything for us. It's about what we choose to do with it, okay? And so I think a lot of the fear around the technology and the AI is like, oh, AI is going to take over. I don't think that's true because we're in control and we're the ones prompting the AI. And AI is only as smart as the person using it. And I've noticed that the people that are the scaredest of AI haven't used it and don't really understand it and don't know much about it. So the people who learn the tools early will have the most to gain. And that does not mean losing our humanity. It means understanding the new landscape fast enough to move with it. Because one of the things about Uranus transits is the first to adapt have the most to gain. Which leads me to prediction number 5. Adaptability is everything. Uranus transits are about adaptability. And the people who adapt to each new Uranus transit the fastest tend to make out the best. This is one of the biggest rules of Uranus. Uranus does not reward clinging to the old reality. It rewards flexibility. It rewards experimentation. It rewards the people who can pivot, and especially in the mutable air sign of Gemini, okay? So yes, a lot of people are going to resist the change. They're going to resist technology. They are going to resist AI. And those are the people that are going to have a hard time because Uranus is not interested in whether we are comfortable. Uranus is interested in whether we are willing to evolve. Prediction number 6, real estate gets creative. Uranus in Gemini is also about neighborhoods getting reshuffled, okay? So people are going to move, but locally. Think driving distance. And this tells me that there is likely going to be shifts in the real estate market that allow movement to happen. But with Uranus, there's always a curveball. So we do not see how Uranus is going to do this until it does. Just like we didn't see how Uranus was going to shake up Arcturian things and then it showed up with COVID, right? So I do not think this is as simple as prices dropping or mortgage rates going down. It's probably going to come through something much more unexpected. And I touched on like portable mortgage rates, and I think that will be part of it, but that's not the whole story. There's always things that like we have not even thought of yet. So, oh yeah, portable mortgages, people buying large plots of land together, modular homes, creative living arrangements, community-based housing solutions, other models we are not even thinking about yet. Because Gemini is resourceful. It looks around and it says there has to be a better way to do this. And Uranus says, yes, there is. And it's definitely not going to look like the old way. So both are true. And this is why I keep saying this is a split. Because we are going to move forward exponentially with technology. But we are also going to get back to the basics because Uranus and Taurus showed us what really matters. So we're going to have more advanced tools, more simple living, more digital connection, more real life connection, more speed, more grounding. So they're going to both be true at the same time. And some people and some communities are going to lean more one way than the other. But the people and the communities and groups that are able to integrate both are going to have the best time. Final thoughts. Uranus and Taurus exposed the problem. Pluto in Aquarius shifted the power. Now Uranus in Gemini begins the reshuffling, the split, and the plan. This transit changes the signal itself. How we think, how we connect, how we communicate, how we organize, how we move, how we find each other. And because Gemini is the twins, there is no one path through this. There are multiple. That's why it feels so electrifying. This is why it feels like something big is about to happen, because it is. The timeline is splitting. The question is not whether things are changing. The question is, which version of the future are you willing to adapt to? Which timeline do you choose? So now I'm going to go to picking a card. So we got the 8 of Summer. The desire for a more meaningful life. Realizing that it's time to move on. Choosing to make major life changes. I feel like that is really fitting. And we're going to go to the book. This card represents a decision to leave a situation that's no longer in your highest good. You've made this choice on your own. It hasn't been pushed upon you. It may seem challenging, or it may seem like a wonderful relief. Perhaps even an adventure. You can take small daily steps until the changes you desire are in place. Or you can move much more quickly. Gemini. The most important thing is that you evaluate your situation honestly and openly, and then move towards your happiness. Don't worry, you're ready. The fairy has packed up her belongings and has chosen a new path for herself. A beautiful dawn awaits her. Additional meanings for this card. A relocation or job change. A turning point. Leaving home. Searching for deeper truths. Spiritual growth. Realizing there's more to life than meets the eye.